Ready when you are.
Okay, so what's the next one?
So as a published author, how would you feel if someone were to write a fan fiction based on your work?
I'd feel quite ambivalent, I think. On one hand, it would be flattering, you know, to think that somebody would read one of your books. That's flattering enough. And then somebody would like it enough, or like the characters enough, to be motivated to write a story about a world that you have created. I can't imagine any writer who wouldn't feel at least some level flattered by the fact that their world is being recognised and picked up, and you know somebody else is running away with the idea. That's one side of it. The other side of it would be perhaps a feeling of being imposed on a little bit, or what is the word? Boundaries being pushed, or somebody coming in and sort of stealing something from your house. You know what I mean? It would kind of be a little bit weird from that point of view. I think I'd have to have a bit of adjustment. It would be flattery. At first, it would be sort of flattery in conflict with worry. You know, what happens if they pervert or distort or confuse or make something out of my world which I never intended and that I didn't approve of, you know. What if I hated what they did? How would I feel then? It's all very well to feel flattered by somebody picking up your work and making their own thing out of it. But what if you read it and then you're horrified at what they've done to your precious work, you know, and your precious world? So I think there would be those are the sorts of things that would be kind of running through my mind. But I imagine that after a certain time I'd probably settle down and think, oh well, there's not a lot I can do about it, and it's probably a good thing.
Okay, so do you think there is a cultural significance to fan fiction?
I'm not. This is a hard one. The cultural significance of something is a difficult thing to talk about when you're in the middle of it. You know, very often the cultural significance of something, you see it in retrospect. You see it by looking back at it. But when you're in the middle of a process like this, and a lot of fanfic being written, it's hard to assess its sort of cultural importance. I imagine there'll be arguments about this. I imagine that some people will see it in a kind of like a parasite. You know, it's like a parasite feeding off somebody else's work. And there will probably be some kind of prejudice against it because of that. Oh, this is not really original. You know, it's just derived from somebody else's world. Without really knowing what original might mean. It's hard for me to give an answer to it, the cultural significance of this, except maybe to say that it might indicate the ongoing strength of fantasy as a genre because of the popularity of fantasy for fanfic. The fact that people are going to write in, you know, it's very rare for fanfic to be written about or within the world of a realistic novel. Now, I mentioned Jane Austen, and yes, that's sort of taken off from her, but I can't think of a modern contemporary novelist who isn't a fantasy writer having people doing fanfic. It seems to suit the kinds of adventure stories, the sort of Harry Potter type stories, rather than mainstream type dramas, which are usually not open enough to allow a kind of fanfic. Let's just take a Shakespeare play, for example, right? Macbeth. What are you going to do with Macbeth? You can't do a fanfic of Macbeth because they're all dead at the end of the play. So you're not exactly going to be able to resurrect the characters of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and Banquo because they're all dead. So in a tragedy or a drama, it's difficult to imagine a fanfic being written particularly with dramas that have a closed kind of ending or a closed sort of world. So, the cultural significance of fanfic may rest in its ability to expand and sustain fantasy as a contemporary genre.